Hey, this episode of Straight to the Point is brought to you by Henson and Kitchen Mortuary right there in Barbersville. Hey guys, I want to welcome you back to our second edition of Straight to the Point, a video podcast, of course, dealing with some of the residents, some of the workers, and people at Recovery Point here in Huntington and all throughout the area. Of course, Parkersburg, we're going to have some guests down from Parkersburg, Bluefield, Charleston. Going to be really special, and today, two great friends that I've been working with for the last few weeks. I'm going to let them introduce themselves. Of course, we got Seth over here and Andrew. Andrew, tell them what you do for Recovery Point.
I am currently the Director of Development at Recovery Point.
Seth, how about you, buddy?
I'm the Director of Programs.
I was sitting at the table with these guys a few weeks ago, and as we were, putting all this together, and the story began to amaze me how these two met. And unfortunately, I haven't got to see Seth's mugshots yet, but I have saw Andrew's because both of these gentlemen came through the program, and that's kind of where we want to begin at now. Life wasn't always, these two guys didn't always look like they do now. Life wasn't always as good as it is now, and the reason being is that these guys find, everybody always talks about you finally got to find rock bottom, but there's just so many levels of rock bottom. We all think we hit it. Next thing you know, there was another foot under that. But what was the turning point for you, Andrew, before you got to where you got now?
So the turning point for me was I exhausted all resources. When I actually got a bed in Recovery Point, the matter of the week before, I had 133 contacts in my cell phone. And I was scrolling through my cell phone trying to think, who can I get help from, or who can I get money from, or who can I scam now? And there was not one person out of 133 contacts that I hadn't already burned the bridge on.
Couldn't get in touch with, wouldn't take a call.
Nobody wanted to talk to me. I'd already ruined everything with every one of them.
Right.
And that's when I was like, man, I really got to get help. But I actually met Seth before then. So I was living in a sober living house that really didn't have any structure, and I was allowed to come and go and everything, and I got hooked up with Seth, and me and him would hang out on the weekends and go to AA meetings, and we would hit the flea market from time to time.
That's when you know you got a good friend that'll go to a flea market with you. That's pretty special there. Congrats, Seth.
Yeah, and I'm sure Seth remembers, I was in the hustling mentality. He had a bunch of stuff from his mom and dad's place, and he had hundreds and hundreds of those Beanie Babies.
Oh yeah.
And he turned me loose on them and said, Andrew, go sell them. And I went through the flea markets. Man, we got done. We had a bunch of money and not one Beanie Baby left. I sold them all, but he didn't know that I was still actually using still. Yeah. So he looked at me and he said, Andrew, now I'm going to give you some of this money, but you make sure you go and do the right thing with it. And me look him straight in the face. Oh, I know. I'll do exactly what I'm supposed to do.
You had no intention at that point of doing the right thing.
I had zero intention. I knew I was getting high.
Sure,
and that's the only reason I was making sure we sold every Beanie Baby.
Now, Seth, were you clean at that point?
I was. I was working at the center, and I met Andrew. He would come down to the center for meetings and stuff, and we just kind of kicked it off and started trying to help each other. And with his sales skills, but I made short work of all those baby babies.
Yes, sir.
We had a blast.
Well, what I want to do before we get to the full-blown relationship with you two, I want to take Seth. I want to take you back a little bit. Let's go back before sobriety kicked in. How long you been clean now?
13 years.
13 years, Andrew.
10 years.
10 years. Awesome. First of all, that's one day is awesome. 10 years, 13 years, and 18 is really good. But man, what do you think growing up, Seth? A lot of people, I've always said, a lot of times we get off the wrong exit in life. Not every exit's got everything we need off that particular exit, and we just continue to get off the wrong exit till we finally get off on the right exit, which I call Recovery Point at this point. But how bad did it get back in the day? How did it get there?
Well, Cledus, I was I guess you'd call family ordered, not court ordered, but
Gotcha.
family ordered to my first treatment center, I think, when I was 21 years old. went through high school, never used or drank or done any of that stuff.
Same here, yeah.
But when I graduated high school, it was kind of like I was lost, I guess. I don't really know. Started dabbling, but immediately, was addicted.
No turning back.
There wasn't no turning back. But it was a process, man. You know, everybody around me knew I had a problem long before I did.
Sure,
you
that's
know?
usually the way it works.
Yeah, and
What did it start off with? Drinking, alcohol, drugs,
methamphetamine was the first drug I ever did.
crystal meth.
Yeah.
Went straight to it.
Straight
Oh yeah, you jumped the easy
And
stuff.
I mean,
didn't you?
it was immediate. It wasn't no honeymoon period. It was just, I just loved it.
You know, when we're talking about meth, I've always said I call it dust off the devil's coffee table because it takes you to a place of no return. You know, I told y'all the first time I'd ever done it. You know, I thought, okay, I'm 27 years old, and this is what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
This is what I've been searching for my entire life, to feel like I feel like this right now. And I was telling Ray, one of the guys over at Recovery Point, I said, after that, I chased that high for the next 15 years and never found it. And that's what happened, I'm sure, with you as well. You just continue to chase that high.
Absolutely, man. I was always an introvert, you know, kind of quiet, and I could walk into a room full of people and feel alone, you know.
Sure.
But once I did that, man, it changed everything. You know, I had confidence. I had.
Absolutely,
you know,
I get it. A false confidence is
That's
what it is.
exactly right.
I guarantee you. What was the turning point when you finally said, okay, I can't do this anymore?
In 09, September 28th, 2009, I was about 2.5 years sober back in 08. Now, Cledus, throughout these years, man, I've had various lengths of sobriety.
Sure, I got you.
Years, 2
Yeah,
years,
yeah.
2.5 years.
Yeah.
Stay sober for a while, and life would get good. I always tell everybody, man, when you first come into recovery and your family's down on you, the legal system's down on you, nobody really wants you around. For lack of better terms, I'm not going to say it's the easiest part of recovery, but because it's still hard. But when you get a few months behind you and your family's patting you on the back,
Yeah.
and telling you you're proud of you, and
Right.
the legal systems, see, that's when the work starts, because I'll start thinking that I have arrived, or I've done something. Life gets good, get a good job, whatever it might be. I'll forget. But the turning point for me, man, was when I got myself in a lot of trouble. I was arrested for manufacturing methamphetamine. I was facing a lot of years in prison. It was my first felony convictions. I have a rap sheet a mile long, but it's just all misdemeanor stuff. And for the first time in my life, at this point, I had already been to 8 treatment centers. I've lived in about, I don't even remember, 8 or 9 halfway houses,
Yeah.
several detox centers, and just couldn't do it no more. I knew for the first time in my life that I could not live with or without drugs or alcohol. And it was a scary place to be. I knew I couldn't continue to use, but that was only, me getting out of bed every day was contingent upon what I could reach on my nightstand, man. You know?
I think it's amazing that you said I couldn't live with drugs and I couldn't live without it, because
That's so powerful.
I hit
Yeah.
the same point in my life that I went to rehab, a little 30-day program. It didn't work. I'm using drugs, drinking, probably not even as much as I used to, because I didn't have the resources. I'd lost my job and stuff. But I remember walking to my brother's house, who lived in Chesapeake, from Huntington, so I had to cross the bridge. And I was walking across the bridge, and the wind was blowing. It was a nice day, and I stopped in the middle of it. And when I stopped, I turned towards the river on the bridge, and I just took a step up on the rail. And as I'm standing on top of the rail, it's about waist high, and I'm like, there is no reason for me not to jump. And that was the thought in my head. I'm just looking at the water and I'm like, there's no reason for me to exist in this life right now. And I wasn't scared. I had no fear. I don't even think I had like a desire to jump. I just, in my brain, there was no reason, because I knew there was no life for me. I believed there was no hope of ever getting off drugs. I never witnessed anybody getting off drugs before, especially as bad as I was addicted.
How many times you relapse? How many times you go sober, relapse, the whole cycle? What do you think?
So 2 times, because I went to jail and I was locked up for 1.5 years. I found God in jail, and when I got out, I went through to be an evangelist, and I was really doing the God thing 100%. And then across my path came someone that said, "Hey, do you want to go have a drink?" And I said, "Yeah." And then that night I also did drugs, and I went on 1.5 years of doing drugs and drinking and still going to church. I was living a double life.
Oh, yeah.
But when I was on that bridge, when I was up there, I had this one, it was like not even a thought, but something in the back of my head said there was something big I was supposed to do. So I just stepped down and I walked on. And there was just some belief in me that wasn't put there by me, and it wasn't put there by a man, woman, family, or anybody. It was put there by God, I believe,
sure.
that I was supposed to do something. And I was like, all right, I don't know how this is going to work, but I had no hope of living a life without drugs. And then I went to jail. When I got out, what I learned was, in jail, I learned about God, but it took a recovery point to teach me about me. See, I didn't know I couldn't have that first drink. I didn't know what happens when I have that first drink, and I learned that as a part of me. Like some people may be able to go to Applebee's and have a beer.
Sure, I get it.
I am not one of those people that can do it,
Yeah.
and I'm fine with the people that can, as long as I know that I'm not one of them. I can continue on my sobriety.
Sounds like the biggest step you took was down off that bridge, you know, because you said you stepped up, and stepping down, man, a life, all lives are worth saving. I always tell people, you know, when I talk to recovering addicts, and I always tell them, I say, you know, because some people look for motivation, you know, why I should do. Well, my mother said I'd never amount to nothing. My daddy said I was a worthless piece of this, and I'm going to prove to them that I'm not. And I've always said, don't ever try to prove to anybody that don't believe in you, because see, they don't count. They don't matter. If they don't believe in you to begin with, they're not behind you to start with. And so I've always said, do it for the people that do believe in you. Do it for that one friend that goes, you know what, don't count Andrew out. He's a good man. He's got a big heart, and hopefully someday God's going to take his powerful hand and place on that guy's heart, and he's going to deliver people from this addiction. And that's where I tell people to find their motivation, because the naysayers, man, will absolutely beat you to death. I mean, I'm sure, Seth, you know, they're once you become an addict, and once you stay in addiction, slowly but surely, one by one, boy, they really start giving up on you. Like you said, 130 people in them contacts, and couldn't find one that returned a call, huh?
Right.
Well, both stories equally powerful, and what you guys do, have done, and will continue to do at Recovery Point is life changing.
Yeah.
I've had the opportunity over the last few weeks to go around and shake hands every morning with. I told you yesterday on the phone, Andrew. You know, I've always liked to name drop and say, hey, I know Toby Keith, or I might know Rascal Flats, or I may know Keith Urban. Now it's more of a privilege to me to say, hey, I know Larry. Larry's facing life in prison. You know, I know Tommy, who just lost both kids that the state came and took away from her. I know Marie, you know, in Charleston, that's been a rape victim, been mentally abused, beaten half to death on more than one occasion. Those are the people that I like to name drop now, because I know that through Recovery Point, more so Recovery Point, I think you both agree, more so with the man upstairs, you know. These people are in the right place. Ray told me yesterday, he said, whether they're court appointed here, whether their mom and daddy told them to come here, whether they come on their own, they're in the right place. Yeah. And tell a little bit, before we get off here and move on, tell a little bit about what Recovery Point offers. Somebody that's out there watching this video podcast and may be suffering like we've all suffered, that wants to take that first step and go, you know what, it's time. I want to do what Andrew did, or Seth, or Cledus did. What do they need to do?
So I mean, one, I will tell you why Recovery Point really made an impact on me, even from day one, was when I went there, I had nothing but a pair of shorts, a shirt, and a pair of sandals. And that's all I owned in my name. I lost my car, lost my house, lost my clothes, left them at some guy's house. He got rid of them. I mean, I had nothing. And I literally had to walk to get the bed. And Seth is one that got me the bed. He's the one that I called the night before and said, hey, I need some help here. And he said, well, come up here and talk to us. And so that was the day I was getting a bed. And in the program, you're not allowed to have cell phones. So I had strapped a cell phone around my leg under my shorts to sneak it in. And I'm sitting there talking to the director and talking to Seth, and they're telling me, like, hey, this isn't about just getting off drugs. This is about learning how to live life and live life sober. Well, that was what he was saying. I couldn't live with or without. And I'm like, wait, these guys are telling me I can live without drugs and have a successful life? And I got out and I said, here, take this. I'm going to stay. And I'm not going to get kicked out for a cell phone. And I handed that cell phone over and I went in and got a bed. So I'm on the streets for 2 weeks before then. Stinky, those clothes all I had.
I heard the story you walking up the ramp there, how you looked.
Oh, yeah, it was bad.
Yeah.
So when I get into the detox room, they give me these scrubs to put on and tell me to take a shower. And then they bag up all my belongings, shirt, shorts, underwear, and then they lay me in a bed. And it wasn't a couple hours later, some guy comes in, says, hey, I'm glad you're here. And he takes, and he has all of my clothes completely washed, folded, smelling great, lays them on my bed. He did my laundry. Some stranger I don't even know in the program did my laundry.
Yeah.
And that, within the first 24 hours, everyone in that building, every resident in that building came and shook my hand and said, hey, we're glad you're here. And I was like, why are they treating me like this, man? And it's because, to us, the last person there is the most important person. Mm-hmm. If the person's not been there a day, he's the most important person. And that's how they treat you in there.
Because I've seen it firsthand. Yeah.
And it changed me. And then I had a guy come in and he tells me everything that he did in active addiction and how bad off he was. And I was like, man, this guy's as bad as I was. And then he tells me he's 6 months sober. And I'm like, you're sober? Like, I mean, this really works. And I was like, you know what? I'm not leaving here. I don't care what happens. I'm going to stay here. I'm going to finish. I went in with a high school diploma. And today,
this is where it gets good. Listen to this, people. I'm going to brag on you here. Go ahead and throw them accolades out there.
So, and it's all God, but it's also, they taught me to complete what I started. So I got married, my wife and I bought a house, and we started going to school, college. And I got a bachelor's degree in psychology, addiction recovery, and I minored in business. And then I got a master's in human services counseling and executive leadership. And now I'm getting ready to graduate with my second master's in Christian counseling.
He's bragging, people.
I am bragging. I'm bragging.
No, I'm going to brag for you. Yeah. Let me tell you something. If you don't think recovery works, whichever camera's on right now, you kiss my foot, because right here is a walking example. That's 4 or 5 degrees. I can't even spell what he just rolled off right there.
One thing is, though, one, they taught us to complete things, but then we had people that loved us enough to hold us accountable. And Seth can explain it best on, we didn't really love people on the outside. And I've heard you say this many times, even in the past week. Go ahead and explain.
Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, our program's built on accountability, and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 9 a.m. we have a community process. So, we welcome people into our program, just like Andrew just described, lay them down, try to help nurse them back to health. But we love these people, man. We love each other. We've survived a battle. We've been on the streets. We know what each other's been through. But if I say that I love you and that I'm here to help you, but I won't tell you the truth about some unhealthy stuff that I see you participating in because I'm afraid I'll hurt your feelings, do I really even care about you?
No.
That's the.
I witnessed that yesterday. I went to watch that transpire, and it was I called my wife afterwards and I said, what I just witnessed, I wished every corporate exec in America could sit in on. I wished every district attorney could sit on. I wished every human being in the world could see, because I watched the guy's faint voice saying all the things he did wrong. You got the other guy saying, here's your punishment, but I love you. They all vote on his punishment, and the guy didn't say, well, F you or screw you, you shouldn't have told on me to start with. They accepted it humbly. And man, we would all be that way in life if we would all be that way with our neighbor, to go, hey man, just gonna say, hey, what about trying this or trying that, without the repercussions of getting yelled at or reprimanded or whatever. And it was empowering for me as just an outside human being going in around people that I have the utmost respect for, being in recovery. It's very moving, and I hope one day we'll have permission that we can shoot one of those, because it's a come to Jesus moment, I can tell you.
For sure.
But man, we're gonna wrap this thing up. Again, Andrew, if you don't care, tell people out there that may be watching this what they can do if they need to get in, if they need to get a bed, if they're looking for help, because somebody may need to know those answers, just real quick.
Yeah, so one of the best things to do is just go ahead and call us. We have a phone number, it's 304-523-HOPE. That's 304-523-HOPE. That's probably the best way to get in touch with us. Get on our waiting list or try to get a bed. We have facilities in Huntington. We have a women's facility in Charleston, West Virginia. We have a men's facility in Bluefield and in Parkersburg. So.
Guys, first of all, I can't say thank you enough. Seth over here, he's been a nervous wreck for a week knowing we're going to do this. He sweat more people than y'all can imagine before we shot this thing. But we're going to be doing a lot of these. We're going to be doing them weekly, every Thursday night, probably around 7 o'clock each week. You can watch a new episode of Straight to the Point. It's going to be very monumental, and I hope it's okay that I say this. We want you to come and get help. We want you to come and get help at Recovery Point. But just get help somewhere. It does, we're not going to be judgmental. Sometimes, you just wherever you got to go, get it. There's many options out there. Don't be ashamed. Don't be, never be ashamed to get help. And guys, thank y'all so much. Mean the world to me. Looking forward to doing a bunch of these. Can't wait for the next episode. It's going to be great as well. You're going to see some great people on here with inspiring stories. Y'all have a good evening. Cledus T. Judd, Seth, Andrew, Straight to the Point video podcast. Y'all have a great evening. Thank you.